Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 13 of the Discordancy Podcast. So it is still June, however, we're going to talk about a different topic because for this episode, we're going to talk about Pride Month, which is this month. So the celebration has already began about 6 days ago, but from Saturday, June 1st until Sunday, June 30th, people are going to be celebrating Pride Month, which is on the month of June. LGBT Pride Month, often shortened to Pride Month, is a month, typically June, dedicated to celebration and commemoration of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender pride. Pride Month began after the Stonewall Riots, a series of gay liberation protests in 1969. The concept of Pride Month began with the Stonewall Riots, a series of riots for gay liberation that took place over several days beginning on June 28, 1969. The riots began after a police raid at the Stonewall Inn, a gay bar located within Lower Manhattan in New York City. Activists Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, and Stormy de la Verre are credited for inciting the riots, though Johnson disputes her involvement. The year after the riots, the first Pride marches were held in several U.S. cities. The march in New York City aimed to celebrate the Christopher Street Liberation Day, alongside parallel marches across the U.S., is considered to be a watershed moment for LGBT rights. Fred Sargent, an organizer of some of the first marches, said that the goal was to commemorate the Stonewall riots and further push for liberation. He noted that while the first marches were more akin to a protest than a celebration, it helped to remind people of LGBT communities and how they may include one's family and friends. Transgender women and people of color were noted to have been excluded or silenced during the early marches, despite the initial riots largely consisting of them. Following the several riots and the first Pride marches, the number of LGBT groups rapidly increased, and the Pride movement spread across the United States after a few years. As of 2020, most Pride celebrations in major urban areas across the world are held in June, although some cities hold them at different times of the year, partially because of the weather in June being suboptimal for such events there. International LGBT Pride Day is a day dedicated to LGBT pride. It is held on June 28th to commemorate the anniversary of the Stonewall riots, making it part of Pride Month. The first reference to an International Pride Day is likely by San Francisco Pride, whose march was entitled International Lesbian and Gay Freedom Day Parade between 1981 to 1994. In 1991, Serbian group Arcadia commemorated International Pride Day with a forum concerning queer activism and art at Belgrade Youth Center. Nicaragua's first public Pride Festival was also held on this day in 1991 to commemorate the Stonewall riots. Serbia also marked International Pride Day in between 2013 and 2015 with hate-free zone actions organized by GSA, Women in Black, and other NGOs. In June 1999, U.S. President Bill Clinton declared the anniversary of the Stonewall riots every June in America as Gay and Lesbian Pride Month. In 2011, President Barack Obama expanded the officially recognized Pride Month to include the whole of the LGBT community. In 2017, Donald Trump declined to continue the federal recognition of Pride Month in the United States, though he later recognized it in 2019 in a tweet later used as a presidential proclamation. After taking office in 2021, Joe Biden recognized Pride Month and vowed to push for LGBT rights in the United States, despite previously voting against same sex marriage and school education of LGBT topics in the Senate. Pride Month is often observed in several LGBT affirming religious congregations. So that is what this basically is. This is what, you know, this is what Pride Month is all about. It's about celebrating gay people, LGBT people, to be more specific. So let us now take a look at the criticism for the um, for the for the celebration. Some have criticized how many companies release Pride Month themed products, likening it to the concept of selectivism, as the companies are perceived to be using the topic of LGBT rights as a means of profit without contributing to the movement in a meaningful way. Others have criticized the seemingly hypocritical nature of companies making social media profiles evoke the rainbow pride flag while refusing to alter the profile pictures in areas without broad LGBT acceptance. Some religious and cultural groups oppose Pride Month on ideological grounds. They view LGBTQ plus identities and relationships as contrary to their beliefs and traditions. These objections often lead to tensions and conflicts during Pride Month, as LGBTQ plus individuals and their allies assert their rights to visibility and inclusion. Months of the year. New Zealand. Pride Month is celebrated at different times throughout New Zealand. In Auckland, it is celebrated in February, and in Christchurch and Wellington, Pride Month is in March. So let us take a look at the rainbow flag. The rainbow flag or pride flag is a symbol of LGBT pride and LGBT social movements. The colors reflect the diversity of the LGBT community and the spectrum of human sexuality and gender. Using a rainbow flag as a symbol of LGBT pride began in San Francisco, California, but eventually became common at LGBT rights events worldwide. Originally devised by the artists Gilbert Baker, Lynn Segerblom, James McNamara, and other activists, the design underwent several revisions after its debut in 1978 and continues to inspire variations. Although Baker's original rainbow flag had 8 colors, from 1979 to the present day, the most common variant consists of 6 stripes: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. The flag is typically displayed horizontally with a red stripe on top, as it would be in a natural rainbow. LGBT people and allies currently use rainbow flags and many rainbow-themed items and color schemes as an outward symbol of their identity or support. There are derivations of the rainbow flag that are used to focus attention on specific causes or groups within the community. Examples are transgender people fighting the AIDS epidemic, inclusion of LGBT people of color. Yeah. In addition to the rainbow, many other flags and symbols are used to communicate specific identities within the LGBT community. So here it is. So let's take a look at a bit of the origin. So the first rainbow flags commissioned by the fledgling Pride community were produced by a team that included artist Lynn Segerblom, where Segerblom was then known as Fairy Argyle Rainbow. According to her, she created the original dyeing process for the flags. 30 volunteers hand-dyed and stitched the first 2 flags for the parade. The original flag design had 8 stripes with a specific meaning aside to each of the colors. So From top to bottom: hot pink, which means sex; red, which means life; orange, which means healing; yellow, which means sunlight; green, which means nature; turquoise, which means magic; indigo, which means serenity; and violet, which means spirit. The two flags originally created for the 1978 parade were believed lost for over 4 decades until a remnant of one was discovered among Baker's belongings in 2020. So there are like lots of variations, and we will now go to the 2010s. In June 2015, the Museum of Modern Art in Manhattan added the rainbow flag symbol to its design collection. On June 26, 2015, the White House was illuminated the rainbow flag colors to commemorate the legalization of same-sex marriage in all 50 U.S. states, following the Obergefell vs. Hodges Supreme Court decision. An emoji version of the flag was formally proposed in July 2016 and released by November. A portion of one of the original 1978 rainbow flags was donated to the GLBT Historical Society Museum and Archives in San Francisco in April 2021. The section is the only known surviving remnant of the two inaugural eight-color rainbow flags. Polish nationalists trampled, spat on, and burned the rainbow flag during Independence Day marches in Warsaw in the 2020s. In one case, a mob burned down a residential building because it was flying a rainbow flag and had a women's strike sign. So, in Norway, the flag is reported to symbolize diversity, unity, and inclusion, in addition to freedom to be whoever one wants to be and to love whoever one wants to love. So, there have been many activism statements made with using the rainbow colors to create hidden flags in order to express their political agenda and support for gay rights and diversity. For example, in Poland on August 6, 2020, President Andrzej Duda was sworn in for a second term, supporting an anti-LGBTQ plus campaign, and the opposing politicians planned beforehand to coordinate and wear a colored outfit to each represent a color of the rainbow to stand in protest. There's another instance where a group of Latin American activists created a hidden flag with their outfits in Russia, which bans the rainbow flag. Concern has been expressed among some of the rainbow symbol being whitewashed and regressed to maintain a Eurocentric and colonial influence. A concept called pride for sale refers to an overflowing amount of publicity and advertising from big companies displaying the rainbow flag and selling Pride merchandise during Pride Month. But as soon as Pride Month is over, so are all of the promotions. There is also a critique made about how the Pride flag has deviated too much from its purpose as a radical symbol for queer rights specifically. So there have been a lot of variations for the LGBT flag. Yeah. So, numbers. So there are some additional pride flags. The popularity of the rainbow flag has influenced the creation and adoption of a wide variety of multicolor, multi-stripe flags used to communicate specific identities within the LGBT community, including the bisexual pride flag, pansexual pride flag, and transgender pride flag. So, let's take a look at some charities. just so you can give. So here it is. So I'm going to tell you 25 LGBTQ charities and organizations that you can donate to right now. First is the Human Rights Campaign. It is a nationwide organization dedicated to ensuring equal rights for LGBTQ people in the United States. The Human Rights Campaign Fund was founded by Steve Endine in 1980 with the goal of providing financial support for political candidates who support LGBTQ rights. Since then, the group has grown to become the largest LGBTQ civil rights organization in the United States, offering support and awareness for and on behalf of the LGBTQ community. Next is the Trevor Project. Depression and suicidal thoughts are far more common in LGBTQ youth than in their straight and cisgender counterparts, especially if they are bullied by their peers or rejected by their families because of their identities. The Trevor Project, which was established in 1998, aims to reduce this discrepancy in health by providing crisis intervention services and connecting people to local resources. Professional suicide prevention and crisis intervention training are also offered by the Trevor Project to educators, school nurses, and counselors, as well as anybody else who can make an impact in a young person's life. Next is the Point Foundation, one of the few LGBTQ groups that grant college scholarships to LGBTQ high school seniors, works to make campuses more open and accessible to everyone. Incoming LGBTQ students who can show financial need, academic achievement, and a history of community leadership and service can apply for a college scholarship from the Point Foundation. Next is GLSEN. I think the light just turned off, but I think I'm still visible, so let's continue. A group of teachers in Massachusetts created GLSEN, or Gilson, in 1990 in an effort to reduce bullying and prejudice against LGBTQ kids in schools from kindergarten through high school. Since then, Gilson has worked on important pieces of legislation like the Safe Schools Improvement Act, which mandates that all K-12 grade schools implement anti-bullying policies with specific protection for those who are bullied because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. This act was a major step forward for Gilson. Next is the Australia Lesbian Foundation for Justice, a philanthropic organization that funds LGBTQ efforts around the world. The Australia Lesbian Foundation for Justice may be a good fit if you're particularly interested in the arts or global concerns affecting LGBTQ people. The majority of Australia's grants are awarded to US-based organizations, while the rest are awarded to overseas projects. The Intersex Human Rights Fund of the organization supports projects that promote the health and inclusion of intersex people around the world, who are often disregarded even within LGBTQ organizations. Next is the American Civil Liberties Union. It has been a century since the American Civil Liberties Union was established as a non-profit organization dedicated to upholding and defending the civil liberties and rights of all citizens in the United States. The ACLU's principal goal is to prevent and combat government abuse and overreach, from reproductive rights to free speech and marriage equality. Next is GLAAD. Since its founding in 1985 as a response to the aggressive media coverage of the AIDS pandemic, GLAAD has evolved into the foremost voice for accurate media portrayals of the LGBTQIA+ community. GLAAD is there to ensure the awareness and accountability for everything from major events to proper portrayals of queer stories in cinema and television. Next is the Ali Forney Center. It is estimated that as many as 40% of New York's homeless adolescents belong to the LGBTQ community, and the Ali Forney Center seeks to address this issue specifically for them. The majority of the Ali Forney Center's teen and young adult clients were evicted from their homes because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. Young people who identify as LGBTQ have access to a variety of programs at the center, including short term shelter, long term transitional housing, healthcare, and educational opportunities. Next is the Trans Lifeline. Trans Lifeline is a nonprofit organization that provides a hotline and microgrants for transgender people. In addition to offering financial assistance and a 24-hour crisis hotline for transgender persons in the United States and Canada. It is the only service of its kind in the country with an all-trans staff. There are paid employees on board in addition to the many volunteers who still contribute their time and expertise, despite the fact that it began as a volunteer-run business in 2014. Next is the National Center for Transgender Equality. Founded in 2003, the National Center for Transgender Equality is a nonprofit organization based in Washington, D.C., that campaigns for transgender equality in the United States. As part of its mission to advance the civil rights of transgender individuals, the social justice group has launched media campaigns and drafted legislation to raise public awareness. Other important issues are the freedom from hate crimes, workplace discrimination, and violence for transgender persons, as well as their rights to equal education and employment. Next is SAGE. LGBTQ seniors encounter specific problems when it comes to assisted living facilities, senior care, and obtaining support. SAGE, or Services and Advocacy for Gay, Lesbian, Bisexual, and Transgender Elders, is one of the few LGBTQ non-governmental organizations that focuses on the elderly. An affirming and inclusive environment can be fostered in senior care facilities through the organization's cultural competency training programs from staff. LGBT elders can find inexpensive homes through the National LGBT Housing Initiative, which SAGE administers. Next is the Sylvia Rivera Law Project. In honor of the late Sylvia Rivera, the Sylvia Rivera Law Project was established. SRLP helps low-income people of color, transgender, intersex, and gender nonconforming people in New York City get legal help. Dean Spade, an attorney and trans rights activist, created the Free Law Group after being detained by police and subjected to transphobic treatment and questioning in 2002. The Survival and Self-Determination Project, which helps low-income TGNCI and TGNCI people of color gain access to services and benefits, has been one of the most important projects since then. Next is the Matthew Shepard Foundation. Founded in honor of Matthew Shepard, the young man who was brutally attacked and murdered in Laramie, Wyoming by a group of homophobic bullies in 1998, the organization was started by Matthew's parents, Dennis and Judy. Now it's focused on education and advocacy initiatives like the Erase Hate campaign, which enlists local theaters and police enforcement, as well as embassies worldwide in its outreach efforts. GLMA. Next is GLMA, Health Professionals Advancing LGBTQ Equality. One of the largest organizations for healthcare providers who identify as LGBT is GLMA, Health Professionals Advancing LGBTQ Equality. Prior to this, it was known as the Gay and Lesbian Medical Association and has worked for 30 years to guarantee that both LGBTQ+ individuals and healthcare professionals receive equal access to healthcare. Next is the Audre Lorde Project. Located in New York City, the Audre Lorde Project is a resource center for the city's LGBTQ population. An essential aspect of the project is Third Space, which supports lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and two-spirit persons of color with education, employment, as well as immigration assistance. The center is named after Audre Lorde, the legendary author and activist. Next is the It Gets Better project. The It Gets Better project is on a mission to empower LGBTQ youth from all parts of the world. It does this through a program of inspiring media content, educational resources, and access to community-based service providers who connect and bring together young people. Next is the Los Angeles LGBT Center. The Los Angeles LGBT Center provides health and mental health care to LGBT people in LA. It boasts an impressive research team who are working hard to advance treatment and medical attention for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. Through a network of therapists, pharmacy staff, and medical providers, the center aims to help its clients live healthier and happier lives. Next is the Outright Action International. For 30 years, Outright Action International has been working on LGBTQIA advocacy and research in various parts of the world. Through research, campaigning, and fundraising, the charity offers in-depth documentation to activists. Next is the Transgender Law Center. The Transgender Law Center is the largest trans-led organization in the U.S. that actively advocates for all people. Its practice is rooted in legal expertise, and it is a charity that's committed to racial justice and community-driven strategies to support local trans movements and prevent future attacks. Next is the Black AIDS Institute. The Black AIDS Institute is tackling the HIV epidemic in Black communities head-on with high-quality services and resources. Their aim is to engage Black institutions and individuals while seeking advocacy efforts and policy from Black leaders and communities throughout the U.S. Next is the Parents, Family, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, or PFLAG. Or we could just call it PFLAG. PFLAG. We could just call it PFLAG. PFLAG was one of the first organizations in the U.S. to bring together the parents, families, and friends of people who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. It was started in 1972 by Jean Manford, whose son was attacked while distributing flyers in New York. And since then, the charity has been on a mission to advocate and provide resources for allies of the LGBT community. Next is StartOut. StartOut specifically helps entrepreneurs who are part of the LGBTQ plus community, providing resources, training, and funding for startups run by people who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or non-gender conforming, and ensuring that they have equal access to succeed in the workplace and the business world. Next is the Attic Youth Center. The Attic Youth Center works closely with young people who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or non-gender conforming, providing them with resources and programs they need to develop their identities as adults. The aim is to create a supportive community that helps advocate and promote the acceptance of LGBTQ youth in society. Next is the LGBTQ Freedom Fund. The LGBTQ Freedom Fund discovered that people who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or non-gender conforming are 3 times more likely to be jailed than those who aren't. The fund was set up to pay bail for those who have been arrested and to ensure their safety both in jail and when they have been released on bail. And finally, the Southern Poverty Law Center. The Southern Poverty Law Center employs a 3-pronged approach to tackling issues in the LGBT community. It fights hate crimes by monitoring extremists and hate groups, providing resources and learning material around equality and justice, and seeking justice through advocacy and systematic reforms. So, yeah. Those are the 25 charities that you can donate from. So, I think that's it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. I don't know else when will I see you again. Probably on my birthday, which will be in 5 days. So yeah. All right. See you June 12th. Goodbye.